Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Ben Jeffries, and I am the host and moderator for today. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar on social media trends in 2022, hosted by our partners HubSpot and TalkWalker. Today, we've got a lot to get through with some incredible speakers, so let's get started. I must say I'm very, very jealous of all of these messages coming through on the chat for everyone who's in much hotter countries. I've seen UAE, Seychelles, because it's very cold in London. But let's get started. So we've got a couple of icebreakers on the screen that I'd like if you could chime in on. Don't worry, everything is anonymous, but they'll really just help to shape some of the questions that I ask the rest of the panelists and really help to get to know you as an audience. So the polls that we've got today, the first of which is, does your company have a TikTok account? Please answer this one. And are you planning on using a social media management system in 2022? And how many social media platforms does your company use? Quick fire round, so hopefully we'll get a lot of engagement to give some really interesting insights. Once we've closed the poll, we'll be able to share some of these results with you. So hopefully there's some ones which we can start to talk about. Awesome. Poll is now closed and results are actually now there. So as you can see, in terms of does your company have a TikTok account, the largest one is actually, interestingly, no. Well, hopefully after this actual panel and discussion, you'll be able to see the value in why perhaps your company may need a TikTok account, or if a TikTok account is actually relevant for your company. In terms of, are you planning on using a social media management system? A resounding 73% said yes, which is fantastic. And hopefully after this discussion, we can get that percentage up even more. And in terms of how many social media platforms does your company use, the most popular answer was 4 or 5, which is fantastic as well. Great. Well, thank you guys so much for all filling that out. Just helps shape some of the discussion, and hopefully it's a nice little icebreaker into this discussion. So now, before we begin, I just want to remind you that the slides plus this recording will be sent to you within the next couple of days. So don't think that you have to frantically just make loads of notes, because you will be able to have the chance to rewatch this and see notes on it after. But if you have any questions as well at any point during this webinar, just simply put them in the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen, just where you're all writing where you're all from at the moment. And there's a Q&A box next to the chat. And on that, we'll then be able to answer some of these questions at the end, and we'll put these questions forward to the rest of the panelists. So just a quick run through of how today will go. We'll do a quick introduction into myself and the rest of the panelists. Really, really excited to be sharing the stage, the virtual stage at least, with some really well-esteemed speakers from across the marketing industry. We'll be going over an overview of the social media trends report that both HubSpot and TalkWalker have produced. And then we'll really narrow it down to the discussion on 3 of the key topics that came out of that report around TikTok, social selling, and omnichannel engagement. Afterwards, as I mentioned, we'll then go over on the live Q&A. So please pop your questions into the Q&A box as we go through this discussion, so we can further make sure that we cover all areas in this discussion. So as I mentioned, I'm your host today, guys. My name is Ben Jeffries. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Influencer.com. At Influencer, we're an influencer marketing solution covering everything as an end-to-end solution, from influencer marketing strategy to the actual campaign management and the actual measurement stage. We're working with many global brands on many global activities. So really excited to be, I guess, sharing the stage and giving my insights on influencer marketing. And joining us, I will let Lisa introduce herself.
Hi. Thanks, Ben. My name's Lisa Target. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Tribe. We're an influencer marketing SaaS platform. So we allow brands to connect directly with creators for campaigns across Instagram and TikTok, but more and more for brands to just create user-generated content to power their marketing campaigns.
Amazing. Thank you, Lisa. And Dan?
Hi guys, I'm Dan Knowlton. I'm the co-founder and CMO at Knowlton. We're a creative video and social media marketing agency, and we work with brands to produce super creative content and run paid ads, all to drive a trackable ROI. And I'm also the co-host of the Business Anchors podcast.
Amazing, thank you, Dan. And Katie?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name's Katie Leeson and I'm Managing Director of Social Chain UK. Social Chain are a social media marketing agency and publishing house, and we work with some of the biggest brands in the world to solve their marketing challenges across social platforms.
Awesome, thank you. Just want to say, obviously, it's incredible that we've managed to get over 1.1 thousand participants so far on this panel. I think that's all due to not only HubSpot and Talkwalker's fantastic pushes out on social media, but also all of the panelists. So thank you guys for all sharing it.
Thanks for having us.
It's amazing. So I guess to give you some quick insight into the Talkwalker and HubSpot reports, the reason we are here is because they created a trends report to really help shape your 2022 social strategy. If you haven't seen it already, we'll post a link and we'll send it to you guys after so that you're able to all download it. So HubSpot is a CRM system that connects all critical components of your marketing strategy, sales motions, and customer service responsibilities to enable your team to understand the full customer journey from start to finish. Ultimately, this makes your entire demand engine highly predictable and repeatable. We actually use the HubSpot CRM system at Influencer, and it's helped revolutionize our sales and marketing team. And it really helps align our teams to get trackable results. So really recommend, if you aren't using HubSpot, to please check it out and organize a demo. Now, Talkwalker as well, another partner, is a consumer intelligence acceleration platform for brands to drive business impact. They're recognized by Forrester as a leader in consumer intelligence and social listening. The platform combines a multitude of internal and external data sources with AI for the most expansive view of consumers. Talkwalker Activate professional services team can augment, accelerate, and fully service brands' insights needed to increase the ROI from the Talkwalker platform. Now, to create this report, HubSpot and Talkwalker gathered insights and data from a variety of different media, including news sites, social media channels, blogs, forums, all between January and August 2021. Using their AI-enabled platforms, Talkwalker and HubSpot have analyzed millions of conversations online and extracted the topics that were discussed most recently. Looking at all the conversation clusters, themes, and sentiment, they uncovered the trends that will rule social media in the next year. As you can see here, there's 10 different trends, but we're going to be targeting TikTok, social selling, and omni-channel engagement. So let's get this conversation all started. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that everyone can see the panelists much more clearly.
We are.
There we all are. So I think it's been quite clear over the last year that the name on everyone's lips is TikTok, right? I think TikTok has massively grown. It's, you know, the first app outside of Facebook to hit 3 billion downloads. So it's certainly becoming a key platform that simply just can't be ignored. So Dan, I'm going to start with you. Should B2B brands be on TikTok? Is there a place for them?
So I guess it comes down to, are the people they're trying to target on the platform, and are they using it for what they want? So yes, B2B decision makers are on the platform. You know, we're all on TikTok, but are we on there in the mindset of doing business? I don't think we are yet. I still think that TikTok is still very much a B2C platform. And when it comes to B2B, you know, we're targeting businesses as an agency. We run B2B campaigns for clients and brands. LinkedIn is still the powerhouse when it comes to B2B. We have found some creative ways to actually use TikTok and content on TikTok in a B2B environment. So for example, some of our own most viral LinkedIn videos have been repurposed TikTok videos. So I think there are ways that you can use the creative tools on TikTok in a B2B environment. But, you know, if I was a B2B business, TikTok wouldn't be my first point of call in terms of what I'd be focusing on. I'd still heavily be focusing on LinkedIn. But you know, you can't ignore the growth of TikTok. Every marketer, no matter what industry you're in, should be spending some time trying to understand the platform because of the way they've brought out this new form of kind of snackable content. So yeah, it's still B2C in my mind.
I absolutely love that. I think, yeah, the snackable content is a key phrase there, because I think it's helped revolutionize where a lot of people were perhaps previously interested in longer form content, but now the short form content has, you know, I guess that's seeped through into other platforms, right?
Yeah, and like if you think about, it's such a low barrier to entry to create content. You know, as a production agency, we do some really high production content for brands, but on TikTok, anyone in their pants sitting at home could just pick up a phone and create a video. Like, it's such low barrier to entry, and also in terms of how you can go viral, like the organic reach and engagement you can get from such a low production piece of content is unrivaled on any other social platform. So it's a huge opportunity for brands to kind of get on and generate that organic reach and engagement.
Amazing. Thank you, Dan. And Katie, on the topic of how TikTok has, I guess, changed content formats on social platforms, how have other platforms adapted to take on board the new types of, you know, content formats?
I think we've seen it as a bit of a recurring theme, haven't we, where other platforms are copying what TikTok are doing and trying to recreate it in their own way. But that's not new. They were doing that with Snapchat anyway. So it's always that they're trying to steal the best bits. I'm not sure it's really adapting to a TikTok way, but more looking at user behavior and how people now are, like Dan said, creating content and consuming content, and how they're feeding into sort of community interests and the way that the content's served. And I'm really, really happy to see more things like captions for accessibility as well, that was obviously driven from TikTok, and we're now seeing that on Instagram as well.
No, it's incredible. I think, you know, we've seen Snapchat launch Spotlight. We've even seen Netflix move into the snackable content theme with their quick laughs. So it's certainly, you know, becoming, you know, the new consumer preference, which is awesome to see. And Lisa, how can brands profit from the way the new platforms are developing?
Well, I think the very fact that we have some platform competing with the monopoly that Instagram and Facebook were having is a great thing, because we now have some side-by-side comparisons to really drive efficiencies in like-for-like formats. You know, if we're reaching audiences on either of those platforms, we can now, you know, instead of Facebook marking their own homework, marketers now have the opportunity to really improve their ROI by playing these guys off each other. And, you know, boy, are they worried about one another. You know, it's like Snapchat and YouTube have just fallen into the valley of death, which I don't think is necessarily the case, but it feels that way. And you know, Instagram and TikTok are just going tit for tat. I know from Facebook's perspective, there's going to be so much of a push around short form video next year. But for me, the crux of both platforms in terms of driving profitability for brands is making sure that creators are at the heart of your strategies. You know, TikTok's strapline is make TikToks, not ads, meaning we can't be taking content or creative that we've repurposed from other channels and whack it in TikTok. We already couldn't do that with Facebook and Instagram, but it's even more so now. It's not fit for purpose, and it's going to have a negative impact on your brand. So I would say bringing creators in is, one, going to be more cost effective in terms of, you know, creative generation, but then we'll actually perform better on both platforms.
And Dan, I suppose, you know, on that same topic, how do you think brands should really invest their efforts into TikTok?
First of all, by getting on there. I think even if you're, you know, we spoke about kind of B2B, B2C, even if you're in the B2B environment, you should still be downloading the app and like looking at the content and understanding this new form of content. So if anyone's watching this and you haven't yet downloaded the TikTok app because you think it's not for you, or you know your target market on there, definitely download it and just start to understand, because it is very different to what we've seen before, and the types of content that go viral are very different to what we've seen before. So yeah, firstly, download the app and start using it. And secondly, once you've kind of got an understanding of the different types of content that work, start to create and try and test. Like TikTok is a volume game. You know, we've worked with brands, you know, we work with a skincare brand, and our whole strategy is volume of content, trying and testing different types of things, tapping into trends, you know, user generated content, and that kind of thing to see what works. And if you could try enough different things, something will pop and will go viral. So just start. And as I mentioned, it's such a low barrier to entry. You know, you don't need a huge production team. You know, someone from in the marketing team can start trying and testing different content. People aren't expecting huge production value. So yeah, actually download the app and start using it would be my advice.
I think one of the points you just touched on there is really, really key, which is, you know, just absorb how the content format actually works. So TikTok released a stat recently, which is that 91% of people on the platform don't create any content and are there to be entertained.
It's crazy.
So it shows the power of, you know, TikTok as a network where you don't have to necessarily be a creator. You can just be someone understanding the content formats and taking those learnings for other platforms, as you said, Dan.
Yeah, and I also think the algorithm's pretty scary. You know, like when you open the app and then you realize it's 1 a.m. and you've been scrolling, watching 10-second videos for like 7 hours. It's scarily clever. And as marketers, we should be, you know, not ignoring this. You can learn a lot from how clever these algorithms are. And, you know, if you want to be getting in front of people, as marketers, we're all trying to gain everyone's attention. This platform has cracked the code of creating an algorithm that keeps users on the platform, you know, for a significant amount of time. So it's really impressive.
Mm-hmm. And Katie, would you say there are any brands that you've seen on TikTok who've adopted a really strong strategy that you're very impressed with?
There's quite a few, I think, but just going back to how brands can invest their efforts, it's looking at creators as well. And I think seeing how creators and talent are using the platform in a way, and probably the best example of that pops into my mind from a brand is Ocean Spray, capitalizing on one small moment and then it absolutely exploding and turning into a trend. And that was through a creator just creating content on the channel that's authentic to the channel. And then really capitalizing on that in a really authentic way to the brand, but a really authentic way to the creator as well. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
I think that answer is fantastic. I think, you know, what Ocean Spray, I guess, capitalized on and managed to get Dreams back in the charts after all those years, really, I guess, set a precedence for, I guess, you know, songs coming back in the charts through TikTok, which was awesome to see. Dan, one of the things that you touched on, which I'm actually going to go to Lisa first and actually ask about it, was user-generated content becoming a big factor now on social media. So Lisa, could you just share some insights on how user-generated content has developed the way, you know, advertisers look?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, we've seen in the last couple of years, not only that we're getting more used to seeing user-generated content, so it's a format that we all are relating to and we understand and we know, but it actually gives a lot of advertisers the ability to showcase their consumers in sort of the true diversity that their consumers are. All of a sudden, if you can have, you know, 10 or 100 pieces of UGC around a brand campaign, it's not just sort of one lot of models that you may have cast for a particular scene or, you know, sort of string of assets. And I think that's been a really important factor in driving performance and why user-generated content just outperforms brand-generated content time and time again. One, because it's fit for the channels that it's on, and two, because it's more relevant. It's really connecting with consumers going, I can see myself in that scenario, using that product in that way. And brands can now test and learn going, you know, I've got so many creative insights because I was able to use 100 assets instead of one. Mm-hmm. And I can really see that, you know, my speaker does a lot better in terms of driving sales when it's in a beach setting rather than in a park setting, for example. And I think that's really exciting. You know, we've, as marketers, had so much at our disposal around ad placement and audience targeting. And now we know there are challenges with audience targeting, as you know, there probably should be, and pulling back towards data privacy. And in that world, we really need to be testing from a creative lens. And, you know, we really believe that ads should be generated by the people that they're meant to attract. And that's why, you know, creators are becoming such a force. And there's so much chatter about the creator economy and what this means for brands. And so, yeah, I think that's why there's this big push towards UGC. And when all the audiences are on Instagram and TikTok in terms of numbers, you know, if you're not thinking about it, where have you been?
Yeah, and on this topic of user-generated content, so I suppose to a lot of people's perception, that might be just seeing, you know, or I guess using social listening to purely access, you know, who is currently talking about their brand and then able to track it in that sense. Are there ways, perhaps using Tribe, that enable people to generate user-generated content at scale?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, in a lot of instances, you're not going to be able to trawl a hashtag and find high quality photos of your brand. Most of the times people might not be hashtagging their use of your brand. Maybe there aren't just pictures of tampons on Instagram. But it doesn't mean that a photo of, you know, someone's bathroom or a photo, you know, wouldn't actually have a reaction for a consumer. And so I think, you know, being able to create UGC on demand is really important. And a lot of creators, they want to work with brands when they do branded content that relate to their audience. But if I'm a gluten-free baker, I'm probably only going to be able to talk about gluten-free baking on my channel. And doing anything else would be very much against what I'm there for my audience to sort of, you know, come and see my content about. And so supplementing my earnings through, because I've got this amazing skill set of, you know, content creation, and I've got amazing photography skills, and I've, you know, being able to actually take photos of things that are, you know, are outside of that niche. That's a really great way for me to not over monetize my audience and really maintain true to the brand partnerships that I choose to work with and that I choose to bring to that audience. So if I can go take a photo of, you know, some Gillette shaving products and give them to the brand without having to post them, I think that's a really great way to kind of stimulate this economy and keep authenticity in the collaborations we're doing with creators and their audiences.
Yeah, no, awesome. I definitely agree with that notion that there are so many creators out there who are so talented, and, you know, maybe don't even have the largest audience, but there are, you know, there are creators on social media who you can access to not just post on their own channels, but also produce that UGC for your brand. But one of the bits you actually touched on at the start was really around insights. And Katie, how can brands leverage consumer insights to provide that hyper-relevant content for targeted audiences?
I think it's more about understanding behaviours and knowing how to use general trends in terms of like your audience and what they're after and how that relates to your brand. Obviously, we know that the removal of cookies is going to be a really big thing for social. And it also shows us that people don't want really hyper relevant targeting because we find it quite invasive and a little bit creepy, don't we? So what we found is it's better and more scalable to use insights in a really interesting consumer behavior ways from like a category entry point. So what's preventing an audience from choosing you? Why are they shopping elsewhere? What behavior trends can you tap into? What occasion does the product need to live in? And then rituals that might be associated with the product as well. And I think that's the way that brands can really leverage consumer insight in a way that feels not as stalkery, but in a way that really taps into behavior.
No, it's really interesting. Dan, you do quite a lot of work as well in consumer insights. Could you provide an answer to that same question?
Yeah, I think as marketers, and I'm sort of talking about myself here as well, sometimes we can be lazy when it comes to like understanding our target market and do it at quite a surface level, you know, like age, demographic, that kind of thing. But I think we need to go deeper than that. And, you know, we need to understand what is, you know, Susan, when she's picking the kids up from school, what's she talking about with her friends in the and I know we can't sort of spy on them, like Katie was saying, we don't want to start weirding people out, but we need to try and understand, you know, what are the things people are talking about in their friends' WhatsApp groups? So what kind of language are they using? What TV shows are they watching, and that kind of thing. And there's some amazing tools out there like Talkwalker, to give you data on understanding what are the opinions your customers have, what are they talking about at the minute, what kind of culturally relevant TV shows, movies, music are they listening to, what opinions do they have on certain topics. You know, we've used data from Twitter before in campaigns we've run for brands to understand opinions that the target market has on certain things that we can create content around. So for example, we did this whole campaign around dancing on ice, and each week we would look at the dancing on ice hashtag and look at what the most retweeted opinions were on the episode. Then we created content that tapped into those opinions, because we already knew that data told us lots of people would agree with that, so that we could create content around that. So yeah, I think it's about using creative tools like Talkwalker, like Twitter, to understand, and also doing focus groups. Like going back to, you know, pre-digital, we still do focus groups. You know, we work with one of the longest running male grooming brands out there, and we've done focus groups with barbers before, because we want to target barbers, and we don't know what kind of language they use, what kind of things they talk about with their barber friends. So yeah, actually taking the time to really do that research using digital and non-digital methods can really help you create a campaign that will actually land, rather than just guessing, you know, I'm a marketer, I know what's best. Like, no, we don't. We need to actually look at the data to understand that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, you know, I was, you know, reading the Talkwalker and the HubSpot report, and within that, it says that Facebook have 52,000 data points on you, which is an incredible number, right?
Scary.
It's scary, but on the same note, you know, I suppose how you're feeling today may be very different to how you're feeling tomorrow. Consumers regularly change, you know, their preferences, they regularly change, you know, their habits. So insights is massive into that, because it's really important that when you're targeting them with what's relevant in that moment. I saw that TikTok actually launched a report last year as well, which was all about mindset targeting. And I think that that's going to be more the future, because who's going to say that, you know, using your example of Suzanne, who's, I can't actually remember what she said, but Suzanne who worked
picking the kids up from school.
Is any different to, you know, someone else picking up their kids from school if they're in two different mindsets, and you need to target them in different ways. So I certainly think mindset's going to come into that, but mindset comes from insights.
I also think just to add to that, you, like, going the other way, you don't want to get so tied up in customer insights that you don't actually go out there and try stuff. Like, one of the best ways, like I said with TikTok, it's a volume game. One of the, you know, we didn't spend weeks analyzing to in terms of like campaigns we've run on TikTok. We tried and tested a load of stuff, and then the data from the different kinds of things that work there, we then used for future content we were creating. So in both ways, yes, utilize customer insights, but don't get so tied in it that it stops you actually ever doing anything.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that front. And Lisa, I suppose tying all of this together, I guess the concept of social selling, can this really increase the actual quality of leads that come in, or is it more from a brand awareness piece?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a heavy Instagram user, but lately the ads that I get are just so bang on. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way, but
having this discussion last night with someone.
The relevancy is insane. And I'm personally doing more shopping from Instagram than ever before. And, you know, I joke because we saw something like 70% of all swipe up links from Tribe campaigns last year went to Amazon. And it was only a matter of time that, you know, the gates are going to have to come down, and, you know, we're going to be driving closed shopping experiences within these platform ecosystems. And I kind of, you know, TikTok's made major partnership with Shopify, obviously, Instagram, same. You know, we're going to start testing shopping from creators from January in partnership with Facebook. Like, it's about how do we now reduce the friction, because we know that we're being inspired. We're being inspired on things that we've opted in and we've shown an interest in because I followed something that looks like that, or a homewares brand, or whatever it might be. And you know, it's being able to capture those real-time consumer mindset shifts, because, you know, the whole time that I've been on Instagram, I've been really keen on, you know, travel and going out in London. And then, you know, I've settled down, I've started caring about homewares, and I found an architect this week on Instagram. It's like, I wouldn't have done that if that data, you know, my profile was kind of locked in a couple of years ago. It's very recent. And I think because of the frequency we're using those platforms, the recency of the data is there. And then we can see visually, you know, what is working, what people are connecting with from a creative perspective. And then we have those creators, you know, we have billions of people that are there and posting and able to generate assets for brands. You know, that's where the shopping experience is going to be now. And Instagram and sort of TikTok are in this mad rush. Goodness knows what happens to Amazon's traffic. I'm sure they'll be fine, but it's hard to discover brands on Amazon. And I don't find their relevancy sort of suggestions very useful. And so I think there's a really big opportunity specifically with Instagram and TikTok to drive that shopping experience. And I think it'll be different how it kind of plays out, because I still think Instagram has a place for the aspirational and the polished. And I'm not sure TikTok has that just yet, because it's so entertainment focused. But it'd be interesting to watch those two things evolve, because I think functionally they will be driving consumers sort of down the funnel within their four walls, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point. I think I actually saw a creator last week post on their Instagram story this whole concept that perhaps when we were younger, we were taught that advertising, or we were told, should I say, that advertising was intrusive and that ad blockers were the way to go to try and stop all of these like pop-ups coming towards us, trying to sell us, you know, non-targeted things. But now the algorithms have got so good, and perhaps because of these data points on the flip side, advertising can actually become more of a pleasurable experience, because it does allow you to discover these new brands. And I suppose, you know, talking about social selling here as a topic, it's not just, you know, the adverts direct from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, but it's the creators actually showcasing how the actual brands are actually, or the services are actually used. I think, you know, what this leads nicely onto discussion is really around the omni-channel engagement. And I suppose a big topic, Katie, I'm sure you're asked this a lot, is can you reuse the content, you know, the same content on every platform?
It's interesting actually, because I was having a really good discussion with someone about it in Social Chain yesterday. And we get a lot of briefs from clients who create other content for non-digital channels and want to just whack that onto social. But I completely think that you really need to be thinking, and you mentioned mindset earlier, it's all about thinking about consumers' mindset, or people when they're on platform, their mindset when they're going on there. And you can't just take an ad that you would put on TV and then stick it onto Facebook, TikTok, because even the reasons that you go on social platforms differ. TikTok, we all know, is there for entertainment. Facebook, you just end up doom scrolling on there. So it's more around like really considering with your content the mindset that the people you want to reach is in when you get there. But on the flip side of it, when I was talking it, in certain circumstances, it can work. So if you think of, say, an entertainment brand, someone launching a film, like the new Bond film or something like that, you could actually just put a trailer out on social and let that run without any sort of consideration to platform usage, because people want to watch that. But I think it is all around thinking about your product, but also around the mindset that people are in when they're there. So making sure that your content's relevant to platform and your audience is really the main thing. And you can't just expect people to sit down and watch a TV ad that you've stuck onto your Instagram.
I think that's a really, really good point. And I suppose what that nicely talks about is, you know, video content, how video content differs on different platforms as well. Dan, we were speaking about one of your fantastic videos that you created on Instagram earlier. Is video content critical to a marketing campaign success?
I actually think the honest answer is no, but you'd be stupid to not be trying and testing video as part of your marketing strategy. Like there's a really good example of a guy called Brian Dean, who's like into SEO. His media of choice is blogging, and he goes all in on writing these incredibly detailed tutorial blogs all around SEO, because that's kind of his media format that works. So I don't just want to stand here, you know, we love video, we produce tons of videos for clients. I don't want to sit here and say everyone should do video, because that's not the case. But the power of video is unrivaled. Like, video is the most, it's the most similar to it being in an experience in real life. So, you know, you can trigger people's emotions, and when people's emotions are triggered, you can get them to take action. So it's such a powerful tool. So I think everyone should be at least trying and testing video. And as I mentioned, there's some really great social platforms out there where, with low barrier to entry to test video, like TikTok, you know, Insta Stories, Snapchat. There's definitely some really great platforms where you can go out there and start testing without, and if you do have budget, obviously go out and, you know, hire an agency to help you produce some higher production content. But yeah, it's definitely worth trying and testing, like anything, you know. Yeah, I do think sometimes though we try and spread ourselves too thin. So trying to be on, like you mentioned about repurposing content and trying to be on every platform. I don't think we should try and be on every platform unless you're like a huge company with a massive budget. You should be thinking about where are your customers focused? Where's their attention focused? Like B2B, for example, you know, we focus a lot of our attention on LinkedIn because that's where our customers are, rather than trying to spread ourselves across all kind of platforms.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Dan. Thanks. And I suppose 2020 was probably the year of the conscious consumer, where, you know, consumers themselves, you know, I suppose developed strong preferences towards purpose. And I mean, there's a great stat within the Talk Walker and HubSpot report, which is talking about how, you know, even employees themselves, 70% of employees want to work for a brand which actually talks openly about their purpose. And, you know, a great opportunity to be able to voice your purpose is obviously via social media and across multiple different forms of your social media channels. So, Lisa, I've got a quick question, which is, how can brands bring, you know, authenticity that aligns with their values of the audience when it comes to purpose?
I think Dan made a lot of good points earlier, which is, you know, again, it's about relevancy and data and conversation. And, you know, if we were to just think we can connect without, you know, the right target audience because of pure demographics and geographies, you know, on TikTok, then we're probably going to be really wrong, because it's all about the content graph and how people are engaging with, you know, creative and, you know, conversations. And so we've got to think about, you know, what are the data points we have that allow us to understand audiences, and what are the values that we have as a brand, and where is that sort of middle ground. We've seen a lot of campaigns in the last couple of years where, you know, brands might not have been able to connect with consumers in the normal way, obviously in lockdowns and things like that, but to gather around shared values has done a lot in pushing brands forward. And it goes two ways. You know, we've seen I think we've seen real power of consumers in the last couple of years to say, you know, I want more sustainable packaging. I want this. I won't stand for that. There's so many disruptive brands that, you know, share these values. And so Unilever, you need to compete. And I think that the values conversation is being had on social. That's why it's called social media. And so if you're not kind of thinking in a values first way, you're going to really struggle to actually be authentic. And yeah, TikTok's a great example of a lot of brands that are trying to be something that they're not as well. And I think if you feel that you are that brand and you can't use that platform in a way that is really authentic to you, then that is worth listening to as well. Because it's not for everyone, and it doesn't need to be. The more brands that flock to TikTok as well, remember there's more open space elsewhere. So as Dan said, you can't do everything well. And it's good to kind of pick your battles as well, because authenticity is like the foulest smell on Instagram and TikTok. You know, people can smell a mile off, and it's just no use, you know, trying if you're not doing something genuinely.
And Katie, on this topic, you must get a lot of brands approach Social Chain saying, how can we, you know, develop our strategies to also, you know, align with these, you know, values and these purposes. How are you adapting to that?
It all goes to authenticity. We won't dictate a strategy around purpose if it's not coming from the brand itself. There's no way that you can, as a company, any company, whether that's targeting B2B, B2C, talking in public spaces on behalf of someone else, and authenticity is the major thing that's needed in order to speak about something that company is passionate about and their purpose. And it all links quite nicely to every platform. I mean, like LinkedIn is another great example of it. If you are a B2B company and you're looking to really start talking about the work that you're doing and you're trying to approach other businesses, it's the same as on LinkedIn. You need to be authentic because there's so much noise out there, and the only way that you'll really get stand out is to be authentic and using people that work for you and for the company to also back that up by proof point of the fact that you are living your brand. Is another way of using staff members as UGC to really back up what you're doing as a company as well. So it's all the same thing. Authenticity is the main piece in any purpose-driven marketing, and we will not go near anything if a client comes to us and says, how do we approach? We had it a few times when obviously when Black Lives Matter happened, and clients coming to us, or potential clients coming to us asking, what do we do in this scenario, or tell us what we should do. And we had to say, we can't tell you what you should do. You need to work with us and we'll help use social in the right way to get your voice out there.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really strong point. I think I always say to people, it wouldn't be an influencer marketing or a social media discussion if the word authenticity doesn't pop up, because I think that really is, the way marketing is driving forward. I suppose probably the question on everyone's mind, which I'm going to go around and ask each of you, is what you see as the top trend for 2022. Is it aligned with any of these three, or is it something which you're seeing elsewhere? So Dan, I'm going to start with you, please.
Yeah, I feel like I'm keep beating the same drum, but it's got to be the continued growth of TikTok. We've seen how much it's grown so far, and yeah, it's just going to continue to grow. So anyone watching this, and if you're not haven't downloaded the app, as I've mentioned earlier, and haven't started experiencing this new kind of form of content and how it works, then definitely go and do that, because it's only going to continue to grow. And like Katie said earlier about other platforms copying it, it's like the life cycle of any platform. Like when Snapchat came out in 2011 and completely changed the format of a social platform, TikTok's doing the same now. So the other platforms are going to continue to copy its new features, whatever they are in the future, because it's kind of the market leader at the moment. So the continued growth of TikTok is my one.
Awesome. And Lisa, what's your 2022 top trend?
I definitely agree with Dan on TikTok, but I'm not going to go on about it. I honestly think that the only way to win at this sort of stage that we have of Instagram versus TikTok and testing and learning, because this is the first time marketers have been in this position with social media in particular, is to have a creator first strategy. And I think that you need to be thinking about creators, whether it's around communication, whether it's around creative, whether it's around commerce, and how you kind of bringing creators through all of those components. I think brands are still a little bit disjointed. It may be just influencer marketing managers that think about creators, or it might just be a paid social person who thinks about UGC but doesn't talk to anyone that's actually engaging a community. And I think those things need to start to really glue together, and brands need to create, direct relationships with creators, ASAP.
Awesome. So we've had TikTok, we've had creators. Katie, what's your top 2022 trend?
Well, I agree with both of those as well. I am a little bit obsessed with TikTok, but more from it does suck you in for a couple of hours and you can't get out. But it does kind of relate to everything else that we've talked about as well, my trend. And it's kind of not 100% new, but it's definitely running at pace, which is post-pandemic, or wherever we are in this world now, after the lockdowns and everything else, where we were able to see something and buy it straight away, and platforms are definitely rushing to keep up with that, and that way of being able to close the loop between seeing something and being able to buy it in that moment. And it's definitely gathering pace in terms of shoppable live streams. We know that there's a huge thing that TikTok are pushing now. Facebook are pushing it as well. We're actually doing our first one tomorrow through Gamebite. If anyone needs PS5s, keep an eye out on the Gamebite Facebook, because we're doing shoppable lives tomorrow, just a little plug. But also shoppable feeds and shoppable talent videos as well, and being able to really see something that you want from an influencer or a content creator, and being able to buy directly through platform, I think is probably the trend that I would keep an eye on.
Awesome. So TikTok, creators, and live commerce. Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, we've had a lot of questions come through on the Q&A, which is awesome. So I'm going to go through some of these questions and get these answered. So I can see some of our panelists have already replied to a couple of them, which is awesome as well. But some open questions. So I suppose a lot of TikTok's perception is around TikTok being for a younger audience. But TikTok, I believe, in my own personal opinion, is that it's for all for all audiences, especially when relating back to that stat I mentioned earlier around what percentage of people go onto TikTok and don't actually necessarily create content. There's a question here from Joe, which is, would TikTok still be worth doing for a core customer base of UK only B2C 50-year-olds? Would anyone like to tackle that question first? Dan, perhaps?
I'd say at the moment, there's potentially better platforms to target those people through things like Facebook ads, potentially. Again, it goes back to the life cycle of social platforms. So when a platform blows up, it normally blows up with a young audience, and then the oldies come in to the platform and start to want to kind of get a look in, and the age demo of the platform ages up. So right now, it's a Gen Z audience. That is going to age up. It's the classic life cycle of a social platform. So I'd say right now, I think there's better platforms for you to focus on if you're targeting 50 plus. But keep an eye on it, because they'll be on there soon if they're not, started to already.
Awesome.
They're more in the 91% that are lurking on the platform, not creating it.
Yeah.
No, without a doubt. Another question, which is around, do you think TikTok is suitable for a luxury brand? And perhaps, I suppose that's a question we get often asked around, is, social media marketing suitable for a luxury brand? Katie, are you right to say that one?
Yeah, of course. I think there's been a huge rise in sustainable luxury resellers, and they've had a huge amount of success on social media post-pandemic, and that is really looking at how consumers are purchasing luxury products, and also how to tap into consumer behavior on social. And yes, TikTok, there's been a couple of them that have really blown up on there. And it's also like thinking about what we talked about at the beginning is, I'm on TikTok, everyone on this panel's on TikTok, and I like to buy things, like nice things. And I think it's also understanding where your audience is and what they're trying to get out of the platforms when they're on there. So of course, there's going to be, with the billions of people that have downloaded it, your audience probably are going to be in there. It's just finding them and using the data, and also creating content in a way that's going to engage them. But there's absolutely nothing to say that luxury brands cannot create that sort of aspirational content for TikTok as well.
Awesome. Another question which we have, which is around, I guess, the correlation between video length and engagement. Dan, are you right to answer that one?
Yeah. What is the question? Is it just, is there a correlation between?
Is there a correlation between the two?
I don't know. I think that a lot of marketers, I've seen a lot of marketers go out there and saying your video needs to be 33.5 seconds, or it needs to be 2 minutes. And I think if the content's good enough to captivate an audience and hold their attention, then it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, one of the big things we focus on as an agency is advertainment, which is a massive buzzword, but it's basically entertaining advertising. And we've produced and this doesn't sound long, but in the kind of video ad world, it is like 6-minute adverts where we focus on the content being super entertaining and relatable and tying in like sales messages and overcoming objections in a creative way. And we have people, you know, thousands of people commenting on that content saying how brilliant it is and they love it, when really it's ultimately an advert. But we've managed to kind of crack the code in terms of producing marketing material that generates sales that people actually also enjoy. So I don't know, I don't know the exact amount of time the video should be in, and I don't think it does relate to engagement, because you can have long form video, short form video. I don't know if that answers the question very well, but
I think that's a really strong answer around that. So hopefully that answers the question. And a question for you, Lisa, more around selling via TikTok and Facebook and how to generate a buzz from it, perhaps comparing the two as well.
Yeah, I think both platforms have rolled out formats that are specifically about a brand now being able to boost a creator's post. So as long as a creator creates an organic post and tags the brand properly and gives them the permission to go and boost it, brands can now extend the reach of that post from the creator to very specific audiences. And I think as an ad format and a performance format, that is a game changer on both platforms. The results we're seeing are insane. So they're called branded content ads on Facebook, they're called Spark ads on TikTok. They have to start essentially with an organic post, but giving brands the ability to, bring in the kind of targeting measures that they have around, regular advertising, and harness the power of how a creator can, relate to an audience and create content that is actually engaging, and sort of scale the advocacy. A lot of the time brands are going, creators are saying, I love this product for these reasons, or I use it like this. The fact that brands can now scale what is essentially, advocacy, is really driving results, and being able to do that to target audiences, target demographics. We have so many brands come to us and say, oh, I don't want to work with this creator because percentage of their audience is in the States. It's like, well, yeah, they're a great, I'll go with gluten-free baker again. They're a great baker. It doesn't matter that they're in the UK. They're going to attract people who have a specific need to understand recipes around, being a celiac. But if you need to only target people in the UK, it's well worth boosting to a UK audience and extending the reach beyond that creator's own following. And I think those formats are really driving results for brands from a sales perspective. The other thing is, not every brand has actually set up their commerce. So I would start there. The amount of brands that are coming to us going, yeah, how do we drive sales? And they don't have an Instagram shop. And it's like, let's get back to basics and just have a look at our commerce strategies on both platforms.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see at Influencer, at least now 90% of our campaigns on the influencer marketing campaigns include paid media in it, because it does help to retarget the audiences. It does help to drive those key sales messages back to the audiences who've already engaged within the social posts. A really good question here, Katie, which I'm going to give to you, which is around, when you're looking at current trends and topics, what's the best time frame for understanding insights? Is it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Obviously, there's a bit of a lead time from finding out an insight to then actually activating on an activation. But yeah, keen to hear your insights on that.
There's two ways of really thinking about it. Your audience insights, you can look back over a month, but really looking at all the data. But then in terms of social first, you don't want to be late to the party on a trend. So with audiences, I think you can go back a little bit further than the here and now, just to get a quality amount of data. And it depends on your audience size, because obviously if it's a trickier audience to reach, you'll probably need to go back a little bit further to get the volume you need. But in terms of actually like a trend and making sure that you are keeping up to date with what's going on, if you've seen, probably talked about in the last few days, the Twitter live singing songs in accents, and I think that is only that's only relevant for a very short amount of time before you start to look like the old person trying to join TikTok. And you don't want to be seen as that sort of like not cool person at a party. So I think it differs really depending on what you're trying to achieve.
I think that's really a really important thing, is trying not to just be that cool person at a party, because I think too often brands will try and jump on a bandwagon. But then perhaps when they try and jump on the bandwagon, they get there too late. And then it's a bit like, you've missed the boat, and actually it can do your brand more harm than necessarily good. But no, it's a really, really good point. And just the final question, which is, I guess, relating it back to the B2B, but perhaps B2B in a different sense. Can TikTok become an effective tool for recruitment process or employee branding from a company, from from the industry? Lisa, I can see you nodding your head a lot there. So
yeah, I was trying to answer a couple of, there were so many questions. I was like, how are we going to answer these? So I was trying to frantically answer, and thinking I can multitask better than I actually can. But there was a question around hospitality recruitment that came through the chat earlier, and I was like, I hadn't thought about that. I think that's a great way. We all struggle. There's shortages in so many industries at the moment around hiring good people. A lot of those people are on TikTok, of course. Finding good young talent is a really difficult thing to do in any industry. And I just loved that way of thinking, okay, well, maybe my audience isn't here, but maybe the people that are going to drive my brand forward are here. And kind of thinking of the other side of the coin to your company. And I loved it. I think great idea.
TikTok are doing it as well. They've launched TikTok CV, so they obviously know that people are on the platform that will help. And we've used it, obviously being a social first business, and the secret sauce of what social chain has made social chain really special is hiring young people who know how to use platforms as they were emerging and can create content in an authentic way, because they're doing it from their homes and from their bedrooms. And for us, it's an absolute goldmine for finding that next generation of talent, and the amount of people on there that are learning how to edit videos, add music to things, create captions, all sorts of things because of the creativity that TikTok allows. I think it's a wealth of talent in there that can be for the next generation of recruitment and talent.
There's some really creative, I don't know if you guys have seen, that went viral. There's some really creative job applications where people have tapped into trends and specifically targeted them to certain companies that have gone viral. So if you haven't seen those, have a look on TikTok, because they're really good.
TikTok, LinkedIn, you always see that, the dude with signed concepts as well. People those viral, but yeah, absolutely love them. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now, just because I'm conscious of time. So I'm just going to reshare my screen, just to be able to do that. Hopefully everyone can re-see my screen. So I just want to thank everyone for attending today's session. The link, which will actually pop in the chats now, to be able to download the report. But I think it's quite clear that the main takeaways here, that consumer-centric requires brands to develop a culture of doing business that focus on creating the best experience possible for consumers. And you can do that through insights to help generate brand loyalty. We've seen topics such as TikTok, creators, all brought up as a key part here, but also live commerce. And it's really around incorporating social media trends is a greater way to get closer to an audience. The brands must make sure that they're incorporating them in the way that's relevant to the audience. As Katie mentioned, the key word there is authenticity. It must be relevant. Now, to find out what trends consumers are engaging with is key. It's important to rely on consumer intelligence, because it helps you really pinpoint interest in real time. And that's where Talkwalker and HubSpot really work as tools to be able to help better understand the landscape, but also better understand social media trends. So I just want to thank both Talkwalker and HubSpot for today. We'll be sharing all of the details and this presentation with you around afterwards. So thank you very much. And thank you to our wonderful panelists who have been amazing today.
Thanks for having us.
Ben.